Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Hi, folks. Welcome back. And those of you that are new, welcome. I thought we'd have a little chat, a little tete-a-tete, as they say. Just shooting the breeze and show you some of the memes. Maybe we'll discuss them a little bit. This is one of my favorites. Shows Kamala Harris being sworn in as vice president. Just saying that gives me agita. Ask any Italian if you don't know what that means. Only a politician could accuse a man of being a racist and a rapist, then agree to serve as his vice president. Think about that for a minute. Where's your conviction? You know, to stand for something, you have to. It's easy when you don't lose anything. But when you lose something and you just give up all your principles, what does that make you? It makes you empty inside. It's just amazing to me. And I think there's a better than 50-50 chance that this person could very well be the next president of the United States. Now, here we go. Believe all women. Remember that one? Of course, they're not all women here, but they didn't believe Paula Jones or Tara Reid on Biden. They didn't believe Larry Sinclair on Obama, but they believed E. Jean Carroll on Trump. What the hell does that tell you? If I'm doing this from memory, if I recall, Miss Carroll's lawyer went to Albany and had the statute of limitations changed for this charge. Now, it wasn't RAPE at all, as everybody says. It's nonsense. It was just assault. But the assault she was talking about, the statute of limitations was way up on it. So Miss Carroll's lawyer went to Albany, had the law changed so the statute of limitations didn't apply, and she basically wrote the law. The legislature, who people I know personally that are in the legislature, passed it so she could turn around and sue President Trump. I mean, does that even make any sense to you? Think about that for a minute. If the roles are reversed, and that was a Democratic president, look at the other two. Look at Bill Clinton. Joe Biden, nobody will believe a word of it. But he's out millions of dollars in a supposedly civil suit. It's just amazing to me. These people suck so bad. You know, this is one that I think people really, really ought to think about. I'm not talking about breaking the law. I'm not talking about committing violence. I'm not talking about anything of the sort. So this website can shove it, because I don't do that kind of thing, even though they've accused me in the past. The longer we don't comply, the more desperate they become. The more desperate they become, the crazier the demands get. True. Look at history. The crazier the demands get, the more people wake up. The more people wake up, the less powerful they become. Remember something. The average, everyday American really and truly has the power, not them. Think of some historical, we'll say, peaceful demonstrations. Look at Gandhi, even though Gandhi was a communist. I'm talking about what he did. You had millions of people just stop working. Millions of people just decided to just stand and protest peacefully and quietly even. Big BLM looked like lunatics. Peaceful protest. If everyone, every single person in the United States that's working called in sick on a pre-designated day, it would bring the country to a halt. If everybody stopped complying, you can't come in here because of this, you can't come in here unless you have that, or whatever the reason is, just stop complying. There's nothing they can do. They'll back up the courts for months just for the citations, for the fines that you get. Who cares? They can't fill up the jails. There isn't enough room. Just say no. If you remember, old enough to remember the old 1980s from the Reagan administration concerning drugs, just say no. Take their power away from them. I remember a scene from Gandhi where the British were freaking out because it's supposed to be a day of prayer and fasting, but it actually was a stop work day. And every native Indian in India at the time when British controlled it just stopped working. They ran to the authorities and said, we had to man our own people on the telegraph, so we've been cut off from the outside world. Remember, all they had was telegraph back then. They were panicking. It's for a day of prayer and fasting. Well, think about that. How about some religious leaders? Don't care if you're Islamic, Jewish, Christian, Catholic, Protestant, but I don't care what it is. I don't care if you belong to the Flat Earth Society. Say we're going to have a day, better two, of prayer and fasting and looking at our inner selves. The place would come to a halt. They would be scared to death. Maybe we ought to try it. This is the famous mugshot. This will be the most famous mugshot ever in the world. And there's a lot of famous ones, a lot of famous people. This is the same jail that Martin Luther King was in. I'm not comparing the two. I'm just making a point. And it's a crap hole. A crap hole. And they brought a former president in there and gave him a mugshot like a common criminal. Not even Georgia law required a mugshot. He's the most recognizable and the most famous name currently that's alive, a person that's alive in the world. He wasn't going anywhere. They didn't need a mugshot to identify him. They did it out of spite. And this is what it says is true. The face of a man who just won the 2024 election. No matter what the Democrats do, they always double down. And their end is coming. They don't know what else to do. My particular opinion, they should have let Trump win in 2020 and then ran a good candidate in 24. But, of course, I don't have the clout with the Democrat Party, so they didn't listen to me. But the more they do, but I want you people in the middle, the ones that aren't the lunatic progressives and the cultists and just the Trump derangement syndrome people, but 10, 15, 18% in the middle that voted for Biden. Think about this. Look at this. What happens if the roles were reversed? And it was Don Trump Jr. instead of Hunter and President Trump instead of President Biden. Would you be thinking the same things? And if you say no, then you ought to reconsider why and your reasoning for who you vote for. This is a very important one as well. It shows three young ladies, attractive young ladies, all open carry, as you can see. Each one of them has a weapon. If violent crime is to be curbed, it is to be only the intended victim who can do it. The felon does not fear the police, as we've seen from tons of video and stories from all over the country in major cities. He doesn't fear a judge nor a jury either. The guy that killed that kid that was a Republican, if you remember, I forget where it was, out west somewhere, cornered him in an alley and killed him with his truck, only got 5 years in jail. But yet one of the Proud Boys got 22 years in jail and hurt no one and wasn't even at the January 6th riot. So they don't fear a jury. Therefore, what he must be taught, being the criminal, is to fear his victim. I couldn't agree more. This wasn't the main reason why the Second Amendment was put in there, but it was a secondary reason. Self-protection. Do you think for a minute that a criminal is going to enter a shop or a store and assault the clerk and threaten people with a gun, knowing that everybody in there or close to everybody is armed as well? You think these carjackings are going to happen? No way. Absolutely no way. Now, this is from George Washington and those younger people that think, oh, he's a slaveholder. He led the Continental Army and defeated the British. Maybe not so much defeated as didn't lose to them, which they eventually capitulated 8 years after the Revolutionary War started, to produce the most powerful, richest nation on the face of the earth that would dwarf even the Roman Empire, dwarf it. And he was also our first president under the new Constitution, one of the greatest political documents ever written in the history of the world. And he said, a free people not only be armed and disciplined, discipline's a key word as well as armed, but they should have sufficient arms and ammunition to maintain a status of independence from any who might attempt to abuse them, which would include their own government. That's insurrection, John. This is from our first president of the United States, who defeated a tyrannical government and played a large part in the forming of this country. It's not the majority that are silent. It's that the media are silent about the majority. That's true, as we've seen from now, or even Supreme Court rulings, how the current administration is telling the main news media, cable news, and social media companies what to go after, what to leave out, what to put in, who to chastise, who to say is the truth, who to say it's not true. But the majority of people are standing by and they're watching all of this. And they're not watching anymore. You know, I was convinced that a movement started, and they call it a movement now. Even Donna Brazile called the Trump candidacy a movement, like Barack Obama and Ronald Reagan, and he shouldn't underestimate it. I saw a video where there were cars lined up. I think it was out in Nevada or Arizona. It was out in the desert, out in the Southwest. And there were cars lined up on both sides of the highway for over 15 miles, bumper to bumper, with all Trump signs and flags, and it was just amazing. You had to do it from a helicopter to get the idea how big it was. Then I knew something was up. Don't be silent anymore, even if it goes down to your own city council. And I used to be a city councilman, and believe me, when people come down for the public comment, it has a bearing on what you do and say. Go to school board meetings. Help local candidates if you don't want to work on a, say, congressional, a statewide campaign or a presidential campaign. Work at a local campaign. You'd be surprised. They would love to have you volunteer. They're always looking for volunteers. It's tough to get people to help. Don't be the silent majority anymore. Now, this is interesting. I was really surprised, and I'm still surprised to this day. The meme reads, remember when the colonists stood in line to register their muskets? Me neither. I can't believe the fact that, we'll say the First Amendment, the right to free speech, religion, all of that, it's not a patchwork law that's by state and even cities. That's the mystery to me that I'm surprised the Supreme Court has not ruled on once and for all time. Like you say you have an open carry permit in Texas, and you decide, or even Tennessee, where I've gone frequently. I live in upstate New York. And I live in Tennessee, and I want to visit somebody in upstate New York. I bring my open carry gun with me. But I can commit a felony, be put in jail. It's the same constitutional right. Now you're going to say, well, John, what about states' rights? You're always preaching in smaller government. Abortion is the one that's usually mentioned. Abortion is in the Constitution. It is not a guaranteed right. The right to bear arms is spelled out directly. Why in the world hasn't the Supreme Court finally, for all time, settled this matter? How can you have a law in one city and the state next to it different for guns? It's a Second Amendment right. Remember one thing. Our rights in the Bill of Rights are given to us by God. They're God-given rights. The progressives and the Democrats believe rights are given to people by government. And therein lies your problem. Supreme Court needs to settle this matter once and for all. This always kills me too, all these socialists. Well, if Trump gets elected again, I'm leaving. And you're going nowhere. You're going nowhere. There's not walls up around socialist countries to keep people out. There's walls up and barbed wire and armed guards to keep people in. Nobody's leaving America because of capitalism, you morons. No one's going to Western or Eastern Europe because we don't believe in capitalism anymore. And we want to go somewhere where there isn't any. It's just not happening. People vote with their feet, and also where there is more freedom is where they go. I'll start to worry when people try to stop coming here unlawfully. Then I'll be concerned. Until then, these guys don't have a clue what the hell they're talking about. Now, this one I debated whether to put in or not. I put it last. And now a word from the View. How's that go? Now a word from our sponsor. Yeah, it's a little mean-spirited, yeah. But some of the evil crap that comes out of their mouths is amazement to me. What's the one there? Sonny. I feel bad, and I partially apologize because Sonny went to college here in Binghamton, New York, where I live, at Binghamton University. So her way of being twisted into this progressive monster that she is, some of my state taxes, unfortunately, help pay for that. So for that, I partially apologize. It's amazing to me. Absolutely amazing. Now, I didn't want to leave the pig butts for the final portion of this video. I just wanted to tell everybody, leave the majority or not silent. I was a local elected official, like I said, from 2000 2007. I was a city council president in 2016. And I know people are looking for volunteers in all the campaigns, but also what they're looking for is election inspectors. Those are the people when you come in to vote. And in some counties, you have a book that you sign. They basically check in to vote. They're always looking for people. And I've seen people that are election inspectors here in this county that have absolutely zero business being election inspectors. They couldn't a lot of them couldn't pour the water out of a boot with the instructions on the heel, as they say. And counties actually pay. So those of you that are retired or maybe have a day off election day, go down to the Board of Elections and sign up as an inspector. I say that because we need as many eyes and ears open as we can, just in case something's amiss. And I think you and I both know what that means. Can't go into detail here because this website won't allow it. Do it this year. Get a little experience under your belt being an election inspector or whatever they call it in your area. Volunteer for this, volunteer for that. Volunteer, we'll say, for the local Republican Party, and I'm going to say it right up front, as eyes and ears and poll watchers, people that aren't being paid by the county as inspectors, but somebody standing in the polling place watching what goes on, what comes in and what goes out, the front and the back door. Same with boards of elections in these cities. Have people there volunteering for 24, 36 hours, the day before Election Day and the day after. Get your cell phones, get your video cameras, whatever you need to record what's going in and out of the building. It's incredibly important. Can't go into details, but we want clean and fair elections. Volunteer to be a poll watcher. Sign up to be election inspector. That is your way of contributing your small part to making sure that things are done properly and lawfully. And I'll leave it at that. Memes are very powerful things. And conservatives, one of the few things in culture that conservatives do well is memes such as the ones I showed you in this video. The progressives are horrible at it. So that's why I keep pushing memes, because they send a message that resonates with people. Until the next time, God bless, goodbye, and good luck.